I remembered exactly where I was August 25th, 2018. I was in San Jose. I was at Region 1 Congress trying to help other coaches learn how to coach better. I was in between lectures and I got the phone call from my 24-year-old daughter crying. She was hysterically crying, and I'm thinking to myself, what's happened? Is she going to die? Is she going to prison forever? What horrible thing has happened? And then she told me, Mom, I've had an eating disorder. And I went into fix mode. I can fix this. It'll be okay. We can cure this. It's not so bad. I remember exactly where I was. Yet where was I during the 6-7 years beforehand where she was suffering? How did I not know? I mean, where was I? I remember exactly where I was when she told me, but where was I for all those years? It's amazing to me that I didn't remember. I didn't know. Exactly 1 week later, literally a week later, the young lady I took to the 2000 Olympic Games, Tasha, invited me to dinner, and we went outside afterwards because she was going to tell me that she was going public about Larry Nassar. But that wasn't the worst part of everything. She didn't tell me that was the worst. She told me that she almost died over an eating disorder. This was a week later. And she said that everything that she went through with Elite was just horrible. That Marta Caroli took her, grabbed her by the neck, said, look over there at Morgan White, who is bone thin, and said, lighter girls fly higher. And that's what she remembered and started eating that way. Restriction. Till your body can't take it any more than binging, and then you don't want to keep the food on, so you start throwing up. And she realized 9 years in that as she collapsed next to a toilet that she might die. So within 1 week, after I just turned 50, I learned about the two people I cared most about, and hiding something from me that literally almost killed them. And is so miserable, I don't wish it upon my worst enemy to go through an eating disorder. After learning more about the eating disorder, you realize it's something they can't control at a certain point. And young girls need to be educated about that so they don't even start, because the horrors of going through this are so bad and not worth it that we have to get it so that coaches don't contribute to the possibility that their athletes do suffer from an eating disorder. And I didn't necessarily contribute, yet there were comments made, and we knew, you're a little bit thinner today. I think that's why you're feeling so good on bars. And that's not the right message. It's not listening to your body. That's not feeding it when it needs to be. That's creating a culture that can lead to this horrible, horrible thing. 2 months after that, my younger sister died. 2018 started okay and ended horribly. My daughter was so wrapped up in her eating disorder that she couldn't attend the funeral as a normal person. She looked self-centered and selfish and someone that you would never want to see. But that's not who she is. That was her eating disorder. And it pains me to this day that we both were so wrapped up in trying to help her that my sister was about to die, we didn't even communicate much with. In fact, when she reached out to my daughter shunned her and never answered back. so our last communication with my sister was barely anything. In fact, I once told her, you know, she didn't want anybody to know, so why did you reach out to her? And she said, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And then a month later, she died. This eating disorder has been the most difficult thing for her to get over. She had to go into rehab, and that's still the mindset, the focus on food, the difficulty in getting to a normal eating pattern, the mental curing that she needed of never feeling quite good enough, because when she was thinner, everybody would talk about how good her body looked. We didn't realize how damaging all this was. I felt like I was like other mothers whose daughter just died, but she was still here. I want to help other people never fall into this. Tasha bravely spoke out, and it helped my daughter a little bit in healing. But I want it never to start. I've heard coaches, I've talked to kids about, don't drink too much water. You don't want your belly full. Why are you eating that apple in between rotations? An apple. And talking about weight constantly when they're in the gym. This can lead to real big problems, and coaches aren't aware of that. So I want coaches aware of that. I want our governing body to educate about these eating disorders, because I can't tell you how horrible they are. And if you know some of our top coaches right now, they've had athletes who have suffered tremendously. One even died from one of our coaches who's currently coaching. And that's a horror. And it's not to say gymnastics causes it, but it definitely contributes if you do not speak in the right way and make sure they're educated about feeding their body when it needs food. You can't give up food. You have to eat. It's not like smoking or alcohol where you can give it up and live. You have to eat. And there are people I have interviewed in their 60s who are still suffering to this day with their relationship with food. It's amazing. And saying, I'm afraid of a sandwich. There's fears there. I mean, there's documentaries out there that show some of these horrors, but you think that it's uncommon. And then when you interview elite gymnastics, ex-gymnasts, and you're like, wow, most of them had that? Some very prominent ones. Very, very disordered eating or eating disorders. One coach told their athlete, why don't you go eat air right now? And they're telling them the reason they can't make it through a bar routine is because they're fat. I mean, these are so harmful. One comment can stick with somebody for a lifetime. One woman in her 60s told me that a dance teacher, when she was a teenager, told her that she looked heavy in that outfit. So to this day, in her 60s, she has to bring triple the amount of outfits on every trip and try everything on to make sure it doesn't make her look fatter. So many examples. I could go on and on and on. People who can't bake and enjoy the cookies they baked, they have to give them all away. It's an obsession. An obsession of cooking and baking, but they can't eat any of it. It's very hard, but I just want people to change. I want people to learn from this. And I thank you for listening.